Brian Koberger. Hey, Mr. Robot. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to start it so quickly. How are you this evening?
Oh, a bit lazy. Ready to solve some murder mysteries.
Okay. Well, at least you're relaxed. Fantastic. All right. So this Idaho suspect, those of you probably or may not actually have seen me. I did a whole thing on Channeling Eric about who this killer was. There were a couple of things I know of that I can remember that I got wrong. I saw a dark car, but then the reason I saw the dark car was it was pitch black when I was looking, I was watching him, pull up outside and I'm looking at the car. The car looked dark to me. Well, it was pitch black outside. So, and then I still believe it has something to do with drugs. They haven't said how he is connected to these students yet, but I feel somehow in there it has something to do with drugs. I believe
so
that.
Let's just probe everyone, and maybe you could tap straight into Brian Koberger's consciousness.
Oh, he's guilty. He definitely did it. A lot of people are, especially on the Discord, they're saying, well, I don't know, he's a vegan, excuse me, and that is shocking that, he's the staunch vegan and he murdered these kids. But I've probed him a few times now and he's done it. Now he's actually thrown their murder weapon away in a trash. Was it near to the scene? No, it wasn't near to the scene of the crime. So that knife, that murder weapon's long gone.
Well, let's probe just a couple question answer things, like why he wanted to kill some people in general.
Why did you want to kill some people in general? Because it's his passion. It's his desire. Have you always wanted to do this since you were young? No, only since he was a teenager.
And did the victims anger him in any way?
Did the victims anger you in any way? Yes.
And did it have anything to do with drugs?
Did it have anything to do with drugs? No, not on the night.
And I'm pretty unfamiliar with this stuff because I don't watch the news, but he knew the victims, right?
Did you know the victims? Yes, he had met them before.
So did he lure them?
Did you lure them? No.
Ask him where he saw them on the night that he murdered them. How did he approach them?
How did you approach them? He broke into the house.
And how did he find out where they lived?
How did you find out where they live? I'd been watching them for a while.
So what's the deal? Who did he murder? The girl?
Those four there.
All of them?
Yeah, they were in bed.
Okay, did he have any type of jealousy issues?
Any type of jealousy issues? No. He just said, I can't stand her. You can't stand her who? Which is the her? Is it the one on the top or the one on the bottom? Bottom. He's pointing at the one on the bottom.
And what about this one?
What about her? She's just a bystander.
Was she also murdered?
Was she also murdered? Yes, she was.
So did they put up a fight?
Did they put up a fight? One did.
The guy or the girls?
Was it the guy? No. Was it a girl? Yes. The girl.
So halfway through this process, did he start to think that he should stop?
Halfway through. That's a good question. Halfway through this process, did you start to think that you should stop? No, he had to finish the job.
Yeah.
What about there was a girl in the hallway that you walked past? And why did you allow her to live? Because she didn't do anything to me. Did you see the hold of the knife at that point? Yes, he had the hold of the knife at that point. And why did you not kill the girl in the hallway, or the one that saw you? Because she did nothing wrong. I don't know. I don't understand this.
Okay, ask him if he had a sense of right and wrong in his opinion of each one of the people he killed.
Did you have a sense of right and wrong in each one of the people that you killed? No. It's weird, isn't it? Why would he leave that one alone? I guess he was done.
Right here, can we ask him if he had any particular reason for killing, someone's daughter?
Did you have any particular reason for killing Kaylee? So in his mind, do you believe she liked you? She wanted me. So he's clearly suffering delusions, because he's saying she wanted me. Now, Liz, why are you saying he's suffering delusions? Because when I've done mind probes before, and obviously somebody who is willing to do this is not right in the head, but when I've done mind probes before, what I find interesting is the warped perception that the suspects or the murderers or the predators have of their victims. So, for instance, when I'm probing a child molester, right, a pedophile, it's not that they think what they're doing is wrong. When I say, well, why did you do this? It'll be, well, because the victim loved me. They wanted me to. And that's the same kind of thing that I'm getting here with this guy, Brian. It's, she wanted me. So he obviously was suffering some sort of warped delusions. Now that makes me wonder if he was schizophrenic or mildly schizophrenic. Were you mildly schizophrenic? Yes, he hears voices. So here you go. He's got mental health issues.
Did the voices tell him to attack them?
Did the voices tell you to attack these people? No. She wanted me. See, okay, this actually, not that this makes sense, but it kind of does. Because if he becomes fixated on somebody and he's hearing a voice, or possibly her voice. Was it her voice that you were hearing? No, I was hearing the voice of God. Okay. So when somebody becomes fixated and they believe that this voice is permeating them, and that there's a target or there's a source of the voice, and this voice won't go away, right? So they try to take out the voice.
What was the voice saying to him?
What was the voice saying to you? How much she loves him.
Why did that make him want to kill her?
Why did that make you want to kill her? Because I couldn't be with her.
So is there like controversy? Like people don't know if he did it? Is that what the issue is?
Well, I think a lot of people are saying, they're not sure because he's a PhD in criminology. Here's where he messed up. Okay. Were you trying to take a PhD in criminology to outsmart the police? To be the perfect crime? You see, there you go. The problem is that is only textbook. What he should have done is he should have become a cop, because by becoming a cop, he would have, known the first port of call. They're going to check all the cameras in the area. They're going to check all the footage. Second port of call, they're going to check the phone pings, where his phone is pinging. Third thing, you don't commit the crime in your own vehicle. If he actually, well, he may not have gotten away with it, but his car was a big factor. So he probably should have got a rental car. Now, am I sticking up for the murderer? No, not at all. I am so glad that he is behind bars, because when I probed him last time before he was caught, he was thinking of doing another murder. So thank the Lord he is behind bars and they managed to find him so quickly.
Can you ask him if he has any notes about wanting to murder that are hidden somewhere that police might find?
Do you have any? That's a good question. Do you have any notes anywhere about wanting to murder anywhere? No, they've all been destroyed. Do you have anything on your computer? No, my computer's been wiped.
Well, I think something that could be somewhat interesting in this is to just do a time movement on him. I don't know, like a month or something out.
Oh, okay. I do believe he's going to get the death penalty. So yes, that's true. But this is going to be dragged out for a long time. This isn't going to trial right away. What is interesting to me is, and we were talking about it on the Discord, those of you who are like, Liz, what are you talking about on the Discord? Just want to say it's on Patreon/remote viewing and beyond for like $3.50 a week. You have access to all the exclusive content and the Discord. And we're on the Discord talking about it. The parents were, they appeared in court. And there's his dad. There's a picture of he and his dad. Now, when I probed the parents, his dad believes that his son is innocent. When I probed the mother, now she's saying, I'm not sure. But at the time that they first went to court with him, they said, the mom was like, no, he's innocent. My son wouldn't do this. However, there was a sister that also turned up to court that day. And when I probed the sister, she said, he's absolutely guilty. And I said, why do you believe that? Because she's come back and she said, he has always been an oddball. He's been nonconformist. He's been obstructive. He's very competitive. He's dangerous. She's always been somewhat afraid of him. So I thought that was quite telling as well. Now, obviously, the information is starting to filter out, and the media are grabbing the reports, which are public, the court documents.
Let's probe this guy, Matthew Nodal. He's the guy who runs a forensic team that they hired to kind of help his defense. Can we just probe him for a couple questions, Matthew Nodal?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Wow, he's stressed out. Yeah.
Okay. From Matthew's findings, looking at blood pattern analysis and stuff, does he think his client Brian is guilty?
Looking at the blood analysis, the crime scene, and the forensics, do you believe that the client Brian is guilty? He's like, we can't be too sure. So who is he? Is he hired by who?
Yeah, he's hired by a defense team. He is just 29 years in forensics, crime scene, blood stain. So he's trying to reconstruct, what happened and try to, they're trying to find a glove that's too small for him, essentially. So
do you believe that it's possible that Brian killed these students? Well, he says everything's possible. So this guy's really approaching it with quite an open mind. What about the forensics related to Kohberger at the scene? He's like saying it's very, very minimal. Okay. And would that pass the test for being guilty in a criminal homicide? And he's like, yeah, it could. How are you going to present this? He's going to present it as this can't be the work of one person.
Ask Matthew if there's a smoking gun that they have found that they don't want to release yet that would make him
innocent, give him an alibi. Is there anything right now that would give him an alibi? No, he has no alibi.
And then since you were connected to Brian, can you ask him if he told anyone or had an accomplice before he murdered the people?
Did you tell anyone that you were going to murder these people? No, he didn't tell anyone. Did you have an accomplice? So he's saying in his mind, yes, he did have an accomplice. What do you mean they were in the car with you? No. But you see, this is where I think the schizophrenia is coming in.
Yeah, I was going to say, are they physical?
Are they physical? No. So in his mind, he's always got somebody with him, right? And this voice is male. Who do you believe this voice to be? See, he believes this voice is God, right?
Yeah, so let's ask Jesus what's up with that voice.
What's up with that voice? He's got mental health issues.
Yeah.
Well, why are some people schizophrenic? Like, this is strange to me. And it's something I've never understood.
Yeah, schizophrenia is very interesting, and there's some higher dimensional stuff that we can probe on that.
Yes, because some of my colleagues believe it has to do with connecting to higher dimensional things, right? Instead of it just being a simple, mental illness. Not saying that, mental illness is simple. It's very complex, but they believe that they may have some psychic ability or mediumship abilities. Now, this is a problem. And the reason it's a problem is because, unfortunately, I have to tell you all this, and I think I've told you before, but schizophrenics, they do follow psychics and psychic mediums. So I have them contacting me quite frequently. Okay, I can immediately tell that there's a problem. But when I've encountered them in psychic circles or tapping groups or things like that, they always have come across to other people. Oh, I'm psychic, I'm a medium, I'm this. And then when the real psychic medium turns up and is giving quality information that is factual and that is, relevant, instead of I see a warrior or whatever, then they turn on you. And this is a well-known thing in the psychic medium world. We all know about this. We all know about the schizophrenics that turn on you. And it's almost like they follow a script. You're stealing my energy. You're the devil. You're controlling me. You're mind controlling me. This, that, and then if they are hell-bent, they will come and stalk you. Now, I have been stalked before, and that's a big part of the reason why I don't show my face. Also, I work high-profile homicides, but, I like my privacy. And they can become very dangerous because they can think that the voices that they hear in their heads, right, are the same voices, excuse me, the same voices that I hear in my head. And then they'll say, well, I am psychic. She's just stealing all, she's like an energy vampire. I love the wording that they use. She's an energy vampire. They're an energy vampire. They're taking all my energy. Now they're mind controlling me and all this. So it can become very dangerous. In the psychic circles that I'm in London, they actually tell you that you should never do readings in person. Some of them still do, but you're warned against that simply for that reason, because they can become dangerous. This guy is clearly suffering some sort of mild, I say mild, I mean, he murdered people, but he's suffering some form of schizophrenia. Let me ask his sister, do you believe that he is schizophrenic? She's like, I don't know what's wrong with him. So he's never been diagnosed properly.
Ask Brian if he ever went to a therapist.
Did you ever go to a therapist? No, he hates therapists. Did you ever feel like you had mental health issues? There's nothing wrong with me. So he doesn't even understand what's going on here.
Can you ask him how it's going in jail or prison for him after murdering people? Is he having a bad time in there?
Are you having a bad time in jail? No, he's in a cell on his own.
Well, what else were you going to say?
Are they giving you vegan food? Yeah, they are giving him vegan food. There was an interview that was done with a person that ended up in the county jail where he was. And she said that he was, even though there was a barrier and you could not see like below the chest area, that he was flashing her or attempting to flash her, because the guards would keep coming by saying, put your pants on, put your, clothes back on. And that he was behaving very erratically. He was rapping violent rap songs. He said, come into my cell and I'll show you what a creeper I am. So, but jail can do that to people, right?
Well, can you ask Brian if those are true allegations?
Are those true allegations that you were threatening the guards? Yeah, he didn't want anybody to touch him. Did you take off your clothes and try to flash a girl? Yeah, but she couldn't see me. So those are actually true allegations.
Yeah, well, we're about the end of my interests in Brian. I mean, I don't know. It sounds pretty straightforward. They're gonna go through the evidence and standard murder protocol. Murders happen every day, but some get a lot more attention than others.
Well, I think this was so horrific because it was for young college students in a very quiet town that isn't used to dealing with this level of crime. If this would have happened in New York City or, maybe like Miami, then it'd probably be nothing. But because this is in the middle of Idaho, this turned into a massive, massive thing. I mean, the media have just been all over it. And I mean, quite rightly so. Actually, if it weren't for such high publicity, he may not have been caught, because I believe everybody was looking for this white Elantra, which was his vehicle. Now, what has transpired today is the fact that he was being watched for a couple of days before they arrested him, and he was taking out the trash at his parents' house, and he would do this in the middle of the night wearing gloves, and he would dispose of that trash in his neighbor's trash can. So he was still trying to hide DNA or forensic evidence away from the police. They still got the trash. They still captured his DNA, which surely that's illegal. I don't know. Excuse me.
Well, let's take a somewhat more interesting turn into this and maybe probe one of these girls. We can talk to Kaylee. Maybe
I
ask her.
actually, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I actually probed her earlier today, and I was like, "What is?" She's like, they're still kind of in shock. They really don't know what's going on. They're
In the
not really saying too much.
Oh, you
Uh,
mean in the afterlife?
they're just like sort of, this is a big shock for them. So they're still not, they're not making a lot of sense at the moment. I have tried to probe them, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, they're still. It's almost like it's still happening. They're still in shock. Um, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, for the next portion of this, I'm going to put in a warning. Okay. We are now going to move on to Jeffrey Dahmer. We did promise that we were going to do this. And those of you that are very sensitive to this type of information, then I suggest you turn this video off now and just, never think twice about it ever again, right? Don't even go back. Don't be tempted. I don't know what Mr. Robot is going to ask me. I don't know a lot about Jeffrey Dahmer other than, briefly what I heard a while ago. I haven't watched the documentary series. I haven't watched anything about it. I haven't read any more about it. So I'm not sure, but I know his crimes are pretty horrific. So again, I just urge you that if you are very sensitive, that's okay. You can catch us on the next one. So we'll let you go here. All right, Mr. Robot, take it away.
For sure. Well, I guess the first and easiest thing to do is start with connecting to him in the afterlife or whatever.
Yes. He's still showing me he's in shackles.
Oh, wow, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Can we ask him if he's gone through any soul purification after his incarnation?
Yes, it's a requirement.
Ask him if he faced judgment after he died in the afterlife.
Yes.
Ask him who was judging him.
Who was judging you in the afterlife when you got there? The guards.
In the afterlife?
Yes, he was immediately transported to classrooms and learning.
Can we ask him what he started learning after he died?
What did you start learning after you died? He did go through like a soul purification because that lifetime was so horrific. He had to basically erase the memory of it.
Yeah, so what is his soul's opinion of the murders?
What is your opinion of the murders? I was a bad person. That was what I was contracted to be.
So, from his perspective on soul contracts, does he put himself at any blame for the murders, or was his life set out before him without his regard?
So, with regards to soul contracts, was this life designed for you? No, he designed it.
Okay, and ask him why he designed a life with murder.
Why did you design a life with murder? To benefit others.
And how did his own soul improve after that incarnation?
How did your own soul? That's a good question. Improve after that incarnation. So he never has to repeat a lifetime like that again. Are you going to reincarnate? I don't think he's going to be reincarnating anytime soon.
Yeah, what is he spending all his time doing now?
What are you doing in the spirit world now? He's still continuing to learn how to be a better individual.
Can you ask him if our interpretation of religion applies to the afterlife?
Does our interpretation of religion apply to the afterlife? Nowhere close. Jesus is laughing at that, by the way. He's like, yes, it is.
Can you ask Jeffrey if there are spirits in charge of that process that he's going through now?
Spirits in charge of the process you're going through now. Yes, angels.
Yeah, and so since they had a disagreement on the religion thing, can you ask Jeffrey what the biggest misconception is on religion?
What is the biggest misconception on religion? What is the biggest misconception? That these people or these religious figures care for you. He says, no one cares for me. If they cared for me, I wouldn't have been allowed to make a contract like that.
What is Jeffrey's interpretation of evil?
What is your interpretation of evil? Someone like me.
But in the afterlife, he doesn't feel evil anymore, does he?
In the afterlife, do you feel evil? No, I'm clean.
Yeah. So can you ask, it's just interesting since he came all the way from the dark, can you ask him if he was influenced by dark energy while he was alive?
It's my dark energy. Yes, his whole being was dark.
And a religious type question, can you ask if he was forgiven no matter what he did?
In the spirit world, were you forgiven no matter what you did? No.
Why not?
That was a good question. Why not? Because to forgive is to never carry this with you in your DNA ever again. But we have to carry, we've tried to clean everything, but you still carry this imprint in your DNA.
And let's ask Jesus some forgiveness stuff. Just a simple question for Jesus. What happens when a murderer dies? Are they greeted by angels?
What happens when a murderer dies? Are they greeted by angels? Yes, but they're immediately taken.
But is the process different than someone who hasn't committed great sins?
Is the process different than someone who hasn't committed great sins? Yes, very different.
So there's less free will for someone like a murderer out when they die compared to someone who didn't.
So that's free will? No. I know what you're trying to say. So, they have to basically they go into jail, but like a school jail. Whereas non-sinners, what happens to them when they go into the spirit world? They're greeted by loved ones.
Okay. So yeah, that's the major difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean by free will. Oh, sorry. I sort of got confused on that. So
Oh, no worries.
he goes to a learning facility, and they get to spend time with their loved ones and friends and family. And
And then just a couple questions, I guess, for Jeffrey, for anyone who's interested, is there a bunch of victims from Jeffrey that weren't discovered?
are there any victims from you that weren't discovered? Yes.
That he didn't admit to?
What you didn't admit to? Yes. How many people did he actually kill? Do you know?
Yeah, well, the public number, let's find out.
17. Did you kill more than 17? A lot more, closer to 40.
ask him what happened to the people that they didn't find. What did he do with those bodies?
What happened to the people that they didn't find? What did you do with those? They're buried.
Um, well, here's another dude.
So many bad people in this world.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Zodiac Killer?
I've heard, but I don't know much about him.
Yeah, let me try and get somewhat of an overview before. Apparently, it was hard to find him. I don't even know if we have to talk to him because I feel like we'll get kind of the same answers. It's soul contract, and
Mm-hmm.
These people, as crazy as their lives are, somehow affects, you know,
Why
gives
do
you
they
your
keep
life lessons. What's that?
Why do they keep circling his head?
It looks like someone drew a report and they were trying to,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know.
I mean, the long and the short of it is, everything we do is in our soul contract, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whether we like it or not.
Um, I think that's good enough for our murder victims and stuff. If we can stop and do a different video.
Yes. Okay, we'll stop this one here. Thank you all that were brave enough to stick around. We didn't go into the gory details, thank God, because I would hate for some victims' family really to pick up on what we're talking about. Yes, so thank you. Yeah, you're right. It is in the soul contract, and from doing the CTT, and I don't know if you get this from the Reiki, but I've gone into past lives of people where they did murder a lot of people, and so in this lifetime, they've had a very difficult time. They've often been victims of, very violent people. And, but when you go into their past lives, they were very violent.
Yeah, that's something to think about, is the karma that let's just say in Dahmer's next life, maybe he'll be, subject to a violent murder.
I did a CTT session, and it's on the Patreon. I think I wrote it up a couple of years ago, and we uncovered exactly that. It was this little boy, I was doing a CTT session. He's an adult in this lifetime, but we uncovered that he was a little boy and that he liked to kill animals, right? For fun, not for food, because we often had to kill for food back then. I mean, that's just the way it is. But he liked to kill animals. And we went into this whole session of, well, why? Why did you like to kill animals? And this little boy, and I think this resonates with most serial killers. Obviously, it's compulsive, but this little boy was so traumatized in his childhood from such an early age that he was completely disconnected from his feelings. And the reason he harmed animals was to try to feel what they felt. So by inflicting, extreme terror, it was in the hopes that by doing this, the person would actually feel a particular way. But after the act was over, they still felt numb. So they kept looking for the next victim and the next victim. And it was all about trying to provoke an internal feeling, an emotional reaction. And it just wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, it makes total sense.
Does it? Because it was almost like, well, I can't stop because I'm on this quest of trying to have an emotional attachment to my body. And so I keep going on this quest. And as this went on, this became more and more horrific. And it still didn't provoke a reaction within, an emotional reaction, an emotional response like guilt, sadness. What it did do, the only emotional response it did do was somewhat of a high. And that emotional response was the only emotion that they could actually feel. Therefore, they kept chasing the high.
Mm-hmm.
But with regards to, feelings after the fact, they just didn't have it. They didn't care about the victim. They didn't care about the family. They didn't care about the fact that they hurt people. They were already, on to their next kill. They were already looking for that. And it was the same for this little boy who killed all these animals for fun and enjoyed it. So the only emotional response they were getting was this dopamine rush, this adrenaline, and then that goes away. And so because you're trying to feel something, that's what you're going to go after again. If that's the only emotion that you can connect with, and you can only connect with it by harming or killing somebody else, then that's what you're going to do. It's the pedophile or the, that says, kill me or castrate me because I just can't stop. And when they say that, they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this Kohlberger was headed. When I probed the murder, I mean, obviously didn't know his name at the time. But when I probed him before, he was already, yes, he was being cautious. Was there any remorse? No, none whatsoever. He was already thinking about his next hit. And so he also, and just to reiterate, this PhD in criminology, he thought he was going to be the most prolific serial killer in the US. He was going to be able to commit this perfect murder every single time. But like I said to you, his biggest mistake was he never worked for the police. Because the textbooks aren't going to tell you about police procedure. They're just not. You only learn that by being in the police. And for those of you that are new listening, I've worked for the police for many years, not in a psychic capacity, but as a police dispatcher. And no, I wasn't a police officer. I probably dealt with it more not being a police officer because I'm running 30, 40, 50 incidents. Yes, I was in that busy of a police station at the same time. And I knew the procedure because your dispatcher is the one that's calling out your forensics, calling out your morgue people, calling out the body bags, putting in the parameters around the crime scene, securing video evidence if there is any, collating all of the victims or potential 911 calls that have been made because somebody heard something, somebody saw something. So your dispatchers, your police officers, obviously very valuable, but the hub of the station is the dispatcher, the one coordinating all the formalities of a crime scene are your dispatchers, right? It's not your cops. They're just telling us, hey, we need this or we need that. Have you called the? And if you're a good dispatcher, you've already got it, right? You already know the procedure. You already know the protocol. You've already called all the people out. So that's why I'm saying you can go study a PhD in criminology all you want to. Studying the mental status of a killer or people that commit crimes is not going to absolve you from forensic procedure. And that's where he went wrong. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so enough of all that. I feel like I'm back in dispatch mode and I should be taking 911 calls where people are screaming down the phone and you're like, okay, stop screaming because I need to know where you are. Okay, but I still don't know where you are. I mean, that's what I went through 12 hours a day, right?
Oh, that's terrible.
It's hard. It's hard. And you have to learn how to calm these people down and tell them, yes, I know you're traumatized, but I can't get anyone to you because I actually don't know where you are. So for those of you listening and you ever have to call 911 or 999 or 101, whatever it is in your country, you have to stay calm. And the first thing you have to get across is the location. That's just a little friendly tip. Anyway, anything more from you, Mr. Robot?
So can't they track you with your triangulation if you call and then you kind of like fall over and pass out?
That's a good question. So certainly it has evolved since I was in dispatch. I mean, I know that certain parts of the U.S. you have technology now that can trace you down to the nearest foot. However, that's a good question. If you're in a city like New York, LA, Miami, London, Paris, wherever you are, you're in a city and you're triangulating the phones, right? There could be 30,000, 40,000 people within that small area of where you triangulated the phone. You see what I mean? It still becomes damn near impossible to find them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not easy. People, think that, I don't know, dispatching is, if you want to know what goes on in a crime scene or what from start to finish, because the cops aren't the one taking the call, right? You're running that incident from start to finish. You're the one that opens the incident. You're the one that's taking note of what's going on in the background. If you hear a commotion, if you hear people fighting, what noises you hear. Do you hear a train in the background? Do you hear people screaming? Do you hear, you're having to do all of that. You are the first point of contact. And by being a dispatcher, you're running that incident from the second that call comes through until it closes, until the detectives stand by. They're doing their investigation work, but you've done all the preliminary stuff. You've linked all the incidents together. So for instance, if you have somebody who's calling in, I'll just give you an example of when I was in London, right? there's a stabbing in the street outside of a nightclub, and there's multiple witnesses, right? So you got 20 people calling the police, stabbing. Okay, what do they look like? And we're all grabbing the same information. So you'll have your call takers. In London, you have your call takers, and your radio people are somewhat separate. They could be in the same room occasionally, but most of the time not. But, that incident's coming through. But you don't want those witnesses to disappear, because I tell you, as soon as the police roll up on scene, there's drugs involved, there's alcohol involved, everybody's running. But thank God for your dispatcher who has logged all those calls, and you've got all those potential witnesses. That's what I mean. So for him thinking, I'm going to outsmart the system and I'm going to get a PhD in criminology, right? It just didn't work out for him. Did you ever kill before? No, he'd never killed before, but he was certainly planning to kill again. Were you going to go back to Washington or Idaho and kill again? Yes. So there you go. Thank God they got him. Any other questions?
No, that's a good question, though. That's it.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for being patient. Sorry, I tend to go on, but I just know police work. I did it for so long. So